Hello and welcome to the Talking NorCal podcast, the official podcast of Active NorCal. I am your host, Zach O'Brien. With me here, it's Bobby Aces. How you doing, Bob?
Feeling lucky today.
Feeling lucky. So we are bringing back our NorCal film series edition of the Talking NorCal podcast, and we are discussing today one of the quintessential Lake Tahoe movies, that is Smokin Aces.
You would call it a quintessential Tahoe movie?
What's more quintessential than Smokin Aces when it comes to Lake
I don't know
Tahoe?
if I would call Smokin Aces a quintessential movie in any aspect.
Okay. Well, I love it because it is an interesting, weird movie, but great Tahoe scenes. The whole thing takes place in South Lake Tahoe. So that's today's podcast. We're reviewing the whole thing. By the way, I just told you before we got on, I watched Halloween H2O this weekend, which is set in Northern California. Maybe we should have done that for Halloween. Great movie, but nonetheless.
I probably would have been too scared to watch it, though.
Probably, yeah. So anyway, be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, Facebook. We're everywhere. Also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, both Active NorCal and Talking NorCal. We are going to post all of these episodes as well as video highlights of these episodes for your viewing and listening pleasure. I'm excited. Let's hop into this movie with the Tahoe's Hella NorCal.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and Darren knows how to do to kick it down in Santa Cruz. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the East Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal.
All right, the NorCal film series returns today with none other than Smokin Aces. Essentially, this movie is about a Las Vegas performer who got entrenched in the mafia, and he turned into a snitch, right? And because of that, the mafia puts $1 million hit on him as he's an FBI informant, and a smorgasbord of assassins all diverge into Lake Tahoe to kill him. And craziness ensues. I think this is an assassin movie for the ages. I think it's crazy. It is. It's fun. It also includes a stellar cast. Right. That's the one thing that's shocking.
So the best part about the movie is whoever was in charge of casting, which I meant to look up, absolutely nailed their job.
So it's a
all-time cast.
It's a $17 million budget. That's it. And the fact that they got all these people on that budget is pretty insane. This movie includes Ryan Reynolds, Ray Liotta, Jeremy Piven, Ben Affleck, Andy Garcia, Peter Berg, Common, Alicia Keys, and none other than Wayne Newton himself.
Yes, sir.
So just off the bat, what was your initial reaction to rewatching it?
Well, I've seen the movie quite a few times. I used to own it back when I owned DVDs. A couple of years ago, I got rid of all my DVDs, and one of those was Smokin Aces. But it was good to rewatch. It's available on NBC Peacock right now.
Peacock, that's where I watched it.
Other than that, you have to pretty much pay for it on all other platforms. But I remember it being... What I remember before watching it is that I remember it being a pretty cool storyline, but really hard to follow. Like it was like, it took too many turns. It wasn't as streamlined as a lot of movies, but if you know and you can understand kind of what happened, it's a pretty good story, and it's a pretty cool little twist at the end. Tons of action, great views of the Tahoe area, an all-time Assassins movie, as you said. And the cast, the cast is my favorite part. Every single person there was actually some people that were supposed to be casted that were not casted, and I did a little research on that as well. But I think my favorite part about it was that it was an all-time cast.
All-time cast, exactly. And this was written and directed by Joe Carnahan, who obviously it was a great script and a great idea. I think he probably made some mistakes in the directing realm, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Like I said, it was made for just $17 million, made $57 million worldwide. I think what I take away from this movie the most is it was made back in 2006. This was, like you said, you owned the DVD. This was one of those all-time, like, everyone owns this DVD. You know, like, every time I'd go to a friend's house and look through their DVDs, this was always there.
No, but it's one of those, you watch the movie, and at the end of watching it for the first time, you're like, I need to
You have
own
to
this
watch
movie.
it because it's a different watch the second time around.
But then, after you watch it a second time, you kind of throw it on the shelf and don't watch it for a while.
Right. It was this sold 1.8 million DVDs.
I was one of those.
Yeah, I probably had it as well. I don't know. My DVD collection's long gone now, but yeah. So I don't think it certainly didn't receive like critical reviews. I don't think the score on like Rotten Tomatoes is great.
30% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 45 out of 100 on Metacritic.
Yeah, and I read like some reviews. People say it's Tarantino-esque, but lacks the wit or the humor that Tarantino is known so well for.
I think if Tarantino directed this movie, it would be all time.
And I'll get to that because, like I said, I really like the script. I really like the idea, but I do think it lacks some stuff in terms of directing. But first, let's get into the whole Lake Tahoe connection of this, right? So, you know, throughout this entire film, there are Tahoe views, and some are major, like Buddy Israel's, played by Jeremy Piven, his penthouse. The entire time he's in his penthouse, it's all windows on the side.
And there's reason for them being in Tahoe because the guy that all of these mobsters are trying to kill, Buddy Israel, is a performer in Vegas, as you mentioned, but needs to get out of Vegas because it's so hot. And so he goes to the Nevada side of Tahoe because it's still in that same state, but it's outside of the Vegas area. And they kind of get into that in the film. So there is purpose for going to Tahoe specifically.
Right. And he's staying at what they called the Nomad Casino, which is current day the Mont Bleu Casino. Back then it was Caesars. And then, so his view is Lake Tahoe. It is the Horizon Casino, which was a real casino back then. Today, that casino is the Hard Rock. And then, of course, you get a ton of views of Edgewood Golf Course throughout, which is kind of over to the right. I don't know if what they filmed, and by the way, I did a ton of research on this movie. There's not a ton out there. There really isn't. Like, I tried to look up behind the scenes stuff, and really there isn't a ton out there. I don't know if that actual penthouse was like a green screen.
I don't think it was. I looked closely at it when I was watching it this morning, and I think that is an actual room.
Yeah, well, that room is awesome if it's the case.
But Jeremy Piven in the movie says this is a junior suite in Vegas.
Yeah. Yes. But there's also, if you know Tahoe well, if you know South Lake, there's a ton of just like little driving scenes and everything that you're seeing all around South Lake, which is really cool. So they also, like, throughout the entire movie, they're in the casino, the bottom floor of this nomad, quote unquote, nomad casino. That does not look like the Mont Bleu or what used to be Caesars. So, again, I'm not sure exactly where they filmed it. Maybe they just made it seem different based on their filming, but that, to me, did not resemble what the current day Mont Bleu looks like.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense from a production standpoint. You'd think that they'd want to do it all in one hotel instead of going to multiple locations or creating a fake casino in some kind of a movie stage or what have you. So, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It should be in the same casino.
You're right. And I think it was, and it looked like when they get in that crazy shootout in the
which one
in the hallway, that looks like the hallway of the Mont Bleu. But otherwise it doesn't. And again, it might just be like camera tricks. It might, but I'm just looking at it the whole time because that casino is pretty spread out, and in those scenes it looks really tight. So also we. Ben Affleck is killed. Ben Affleck and Peter Berger killed by the Tremor brothers at Cave Rock.
Now, I will say, what's the guy that's not Ben Affleck? What's the other guy's name that was killed right then?
Peter Berg.
So that was one of the only bad casts, I think, because they like had him like have like mutton chops. Like I like know is
Do you know
like,
who Peter Berg is?
yeah, but he is mostly like a clean laced guy when he like in this he's supposed to be this like ex-cop bounty hunter that has these really long chop. It just looked wrong to me. He's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but I just think that he wasn't casted perfectly.
So I don't want to go off on too far of a tangent, but Peter Berg is one of the like greatest directors in Hollywood.
Yeah, but like he just didn't fit that part. When I look at him in that part, I'm like, this just doesn't fit.
Yeah, I don't think Peter Berg's ever filled for fit. I think people bring him on as an actor so he can help with the directing process because he's that good of a director. Anyway, when they're killed on the lake, that is Cave Rock. It's a popular destination for people to park, take in lake views, and hike around, and they were tossed in Lake Tahoe. So those are sort of the different little scenes that you see throughout the film that are Lake Tahoe-esque. By the way, this movie was filmed in current-day Mont Bleu, but Horizon Casino, which is no more, like I said, it's the Hard Rock, got a ton of free advertising.
Absolutely.
Like the like every part, like it just shows Horizon Hotel the entire time. How did that place go out of business with that type of free advertising? I guess it didn't go out of business. They just sold to. It's been called a bunch of different things. So one thing that interests me, and we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of this film, but the convergence of the mafia and Lake Tahoe.
Well, we've talked about it in some of our like NorCal legends before about are there frozen bodies at the bottom of Lake Tahoe? And as we've talked about previously, if there are, which there is no proof of, but you can see a lake of that depth and that cold of an area that potentially mummifying or preserving dead bodies would have been mob related generally.
There's no doubt there are mob hits sitting at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. I'm sure about it. The question is how many? But, you know, when you have this quote-unquote mob movie that is based in South Lake Tahoe, we have to talk about the connection because, you know, and who really knows? It's kind of like the Las Vegas connection with the mafia. Everyone knows that the mafia was sort of essential for bringing much of the casino business to life in Lake Tahoe. They funded a lot of it, and they benefited.
In Nevada as a whole.
In Nevada as a whole, correct. As I did some research, obviously when you're talking about the mafia, there's not much specifics, but when these mobsters saw that there was potential sitting on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, they took their money from Vegas and they started these casinos in Tahoe. And there is some documentation of the financial investment that the mafia had on the South Lake Tahoe casinos. I think it was probably a brief investment, and then they left town for whatever reason. Also, Frank Sinatra, who has huge ties to the mob, he bought the Calneva in 1960, and it's well documented that the Chicago mob boss, Sam Giannakka, would visit the Calneva frequently, and in fact, the Calneva has underground tunnels, which I'm not sure if it was built before or after Frank Sinatra purchased the hotel, but these tunnels were notorious for people being able to get around. Like if you're a mob boss, you want to be able to get around undetected if something happens. It was also a lot of celebrities would use the tunnels to get around Tahoe undetected. Of course, there's the major story of JFK and Marilyn Monroe supposedly used those tunnels a lot to conduct their extramarital affair. And then, like you talked about, the bodies at the bottom of the lake. Apparently, back in the 60s, there were a lot of mob hits in Lake Tahoe, and apparently they threw them in the lake. We don't have proof of this, but they found some bodies over the years. But Lake Tahoe is the second deepest lake in the country. So
it makes sense.
If you go out far enough, there's no way they'll ever recover that body.
And mafia guys, if they're residing in Tahoe, probably have boats. Very easily jump on a boat, go jump and dump the body in the middle of the lake. No one will ever see or hear from it again.
Of course, there's the Godfather 2 scene where Fredo goes swimming with the fishes in Lake Tahoe. So it's been memorialized. It's been everything. So that is all I could really find about the mafia in Lake Tahoe. I think a lot of people don't know this, but they actually served a huge role in the beginning, but have since sort of withdrawn from the area.
Or at least from public view.
At least from public view, at least, well, I just don't think the mafia invests in hotels anymore. They can't get away with it like they used to.
What are they investing in? Bitcoin?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with the mafia nowadays, but
one fact you did leave out is the fact that I won $40 in quarters at the Calneva Hotel when we were like, I don't know, 13 years old.
This is a great story. Have we told this on the podcast?
I don't know.
We were visiting with our family, the Calneva Hotel, which was fantastic. It's a great hotel.
It's an all-time hotel.
Which is closed now. They're planning on reopening it, but it's currently closed. And I always remember they had the state line through the middle of the pool.
Yep.
So you could go from one state to another.
Which
in the
we
pool.
thought was the coolest thing.
I was 12 years old. I thought it was amazing. Yeah. So here, you tell the story.
Last day of the family vacation, we're about to leave the hotel. I give my mom or dad, I don't remember, it was probably dad, a quarter and said, hey, put it in that slot machine because I'm clearly not of age to gamble. It hit. Had I max betted, I would have won a shit ton, but I only won $40. I kept them in quarters, and in the whole 4-hour drive back home to Reading where we lived back then, I just shuffled the quarters and just mocked you like, hey, look, I got $40. And ultimately, I bought baseball cards with that.
Nice.
That money.
Yeah, I remember you winning it, and this was back when it spews out a ton of quarters, which is
the good old days.
Well, think about how that's like ridiculous to think that was even a thing. But and our parents were like, "Hey, we'll go cash that in for you." You're like, "No, I want the quarters."
Yep.
Which was really weird.
Took it straight to Toys R Us and bought a whole box of baseball cards.
I can't wait for that hotel to reopen, the Calneva. But anyway, back to Smokin Aces. Let's start with you. What's your initial reaction? What was good about the film?
So I had a really fun time watching it.
Yeah.
Like it's a fun watch. All-time cast, as I mentioned. I mean, it opens with Ryan Reynolds and Ray Liotta in an FBI surveillance van. It's like, and that's an odd couple at that.
Fun fact, that entire opening scene was improvised.
I saw that this morning. So the movie it's a fun watch. It's all over the place. It's easier to follow the second time because the first time it's just like, wait, what? And still, even after seeing it a couple times, I'm still a little, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like if you really break down what happens in the film, there's at least one question that I'm like, okay, the answer of this in the film does not make any sense. And we can talk about that coming up. But yeah, you mentioned that they show Tahoe. The very first time you see Ryan Reynolds and Ray Liotta driving, it's literally like a half of a second shot, and you can just, it's Tahoe. If you've ever driven down that road.
That's 50 right there.
Yeah.
They're coming through 50 from, the middle of South Lake into State Line.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the assassins, but it's just like, there's so many different groups. Today, I was trying to really piece things together, and there's a couple pieces like who hired this assassin versus this assassin. Some I know, some I don't. One person was offered $1 million for the hit. Another group was offered $100,000 for the hit. As a group, the two women, it was $100,000. They split 45, and then the person that coordinated that got 10,000. But it's just action packed. It's mafia. It's twists and turns throughout. It's very, I mean, I found myself laughing at a couple scenes like, this is just absurd, but I can't stop watching. So I guess it could have been a little bit more simplified, Correct. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just so all over the place and doesn't make a ton of sense. And that could have very well been because of editing. They might have edited some things out that might have explained things a little bit more thoroughly, but they needed to keep it right under 2 hours. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway was, number one, all-time cast, and number two, it's just a fun movie to watch.
Yeah. So, Yeah, just the idea of having all these assassins come into one place and playing it out in a casino in Tahoe is pretty awesome altogether. Again, we'll get to the bad stuff, but first and foremost, just that epic battle at the almost at the end there when all these different assassins come, with the FBI and everything sort of converging at once outside of Buddy Israel's hotel room.
As he's just ripping lines of cocaine like they're like going out of business sale.
There's hookers running around everywhere. It's just pure chaos. That's a great scene. The massive gun, which is across the way at the Horizon.
That's badass.
The Horizon Casino is awesome. What was really funny about that is every time she's shooting at them from across the way, Ryan Reynolds just unloads his clip at the Horizon Casino.
That only happened once, but it's just like, all right, dude, like, come on.
He has no idea where it's coming from. He just starts shooting at
and then he throws his gun.
Which is a little crazy. I love the Tremor brother who brought a chainsaw to a gunfight. That was interesting. He was literally cutting people open with a chainsaw.
And ended up sitting on
it. What else did I have? I thought the hooker fight is hilarious. I thought just them getting in a fight, it was really funny. Buddy Israel's manager.
Oh, God. What's his name?
It's Booger.
Oh, that's Booger.
It's Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Yep.
I love that guy. He is a terrible actor, but I just love him in anything.
Totally.
I had written down Ray Liotta and Ryan Reynolds are just fantastic together. All their lines, they're kind of just a really good duo because Ryan Reynolds has like a lighter self, and Ray Liotta, obviously known for all his mob roles. He was... in Goodfellas, and then he most recently did the Sopranos movie. So he plays two roles in the Sopranos movie, actually. But I love those two together are like can't miss.
I will say that the movie showcased to me and opened my eyes to the idea of Alicia Keys and Common, maybe the best two looking people that have ever come together on screen. I wish that would have happened with that. I was like, what a perfect couple.
Yeah, it's. I wonder if, because obviously they're both musicians. I wonder if they cast two musicians in that role to come together on purpose,
maybe,
or if that was just like a happy accident. I don't know.
Two of the best looking people like ever.
I love that they set up this whole thing with Ben Affleck, and then he dies.
That was pretty cool.
Quickly.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like it reminds me of Scream, the movie where they marketed the whole film as Drew Barrymore. All the commercials were Drew Barrymore, and she gets killed in the first scene. I just like a good flip of it. By the way, I also read that that scene where Ben Affleck's playing pool. It took him like 20 takes because he's just terrible at pool. So that I thought that was funny. Just overall, I just think the race against time for the assassin, it's almost like a rat race of assassins.
Well,
I think that's just a fun.
That was one of the things I picked up today while watching it. It's only 18 hours, like that. The contract on Buddy Israel's life ends. 18 hours. These killers from around the world have to come onto Tahoe, find him, kill him, and deliver his heart. In 18 hours. That's not. I didn't remember that time crunch being part of the film, and I did pick it up today.
Yeah, and by the way, I didn't notice anybody just walking through the casino getting hurt or injured. It seems like everyone that died was either in the FBI or
no stray bullets is what you're saying.
Yes, which that can't be the case. It also, it reminds me of another time when shit got real in South Lake when there was a bomb in Harvey's and they blew it up. Have you heard that story before?
I think so. Yeah, I'm not as familiar as you are, probably.
A degenerate gambler put a bomb in Harvey's and threatened to blow it up if they didn't give him $3 million. They didn't give him $3 million, and he blew it up. Kind of crazy, huh? Anyway, that's crazed South Lake stories. Now we have to get to what's bad about the movie, because you're right. This movie is just way too complicated. In fact, I I go and there is a sequel. It's a prequel. I've never seen it. I don't know.
Yeah, I
if you
saw
have.
it while looking it up last night. Of course, I didn't click on it. And
So
watch
I don't
it.
know how they added to the story or whatever. But
We're also going to be spoiling some things probably in this section. So if you haven't seen the movie, I mean,
from 15 years ago, then yeah.
yeah.
So I think this movie almost works better as two separate movies. You have a film about a race against time for assassins, and then you have the whole mob FBI, thing. I just don't. I think there's too much there for one movie, right? The FBI director or the FBI guy turns into the mob boss. I think that's a whole movie in itself, and I think the assassins going to Tahoe is a whole movie in itself, and that's why it's way too complicated. I like a twist at the end, but it was just too much to take in, and it's still, I watched to this day, I watched this movie 20 times, and it's still like, wait, what?
So the mob boss of mob bosses, an FBI agent is supposed to infiltrate the mafia, and they go through and show how he's going to be changing his appearance in order to do so. Then at the end, you find out that guy went to assassinate the mob boss, but actually got killed himself. But turns out it was actually him that killed the mob boss, and then he took over his identity. Okay,
Right.
It doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, then they're saying the FBI tried to kill their agent prior to becoming the FBI informant in the mafia, which makes no sense. Like if they wanted to cancel that, they would just cancel that, not kill the agent. And so it just doesn't make any sense, but they just want to have all these twists and turns and have this wild scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, it is revealed that Jeremy Piven, a.k.a. Buddy Israel, is the son of the mob boss.
Who isn't an FBI informant? Yeah, it's like...
And so they reveal all this in like 3 minutes, and it's like, okay, that's a little much. I'm all for a good twist, but it was a little too much.
And at the end of the day, they're trying to save Jeremy Piven so that they could take his heart and give it to his father so that he could continue to be an FBI informant. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's an old man about to die anyways? A heart transplant, who knows if it'll work? The fact that they're compatible because they're son, father, that makes a little sense. But it's just like, all right, guys, so you're going to kill a 45-year-old to save an 80-year-old that might be able to give you a little bit of information, but it's not like they haven't been it's a stretch.
It's a stretch. I agree. Also, Jeremy Piven, and I heard him say this, he died of a cardiac arrest, or I don't know if he died, but he had a cardiac arrest when he's doing a whole mound of cocaine and thinking about committing suicide in his hotel room. And then they're going to take that said heart and it's going to work on this other guy. I don't buy it for a second.
Well, they have the cardiac specialist, the cardiologist or whatever, the Swede, that how they like kind of portray him a little bit in the film, but it turns out the Swede's actually the other guy. But why would you take a drug addict? I mean, but the only thing is that they're blood matches, because they're related.
But I heard him because I listened to it like really closely this time because it's like, well, is Jeremy Piven actually dead? They say he had a cardiac arrest. That's what they said in the film. So it's like, okay, why would you do a heart plant with someone that just had a heart attack?
Well, and it does make sense because at the end, Ryan Reynolds unplugs both of their machines, which means both of the
are on life support. Right. So yeah, it's way too complicated. I do think these plots as ideas are really cool ideas.
They could have been more organized to be actually really good film.
Which brings me to the director, Joe Carnahan. I think he made a really good script. I think this probably would have been better in someone else's hands directing. It's got this manic energy that is really hard to follow, and it's cutting to different stuff at all times. And you think about just explaining the plot at the beginning with the assassins, it's cutting to all these different people. It's really hard to follow.
So, but that's been I love how you said that. It's very manic. And the one movie that perfected that was Birdman. Birdman is never, it's manic just like that. It's all over. It's nonstop. It's like draw you in. That's what they tried to do, done successfully. That won Film of the Year, I believe.
Yep.
Smokin Aces, had it been done to the artistic level that Birdman did, could have really, I mean, the cast was there for this to be an all-time film.
Right.
But the execution was too manic. It was hard to follow.
Yes, I think that someone else should have directed this film, and that's just my thought. It was, there's a lot of things that I think could have been cut from the film, and then there's a lot of stuff I thought could have been expanded. You talk about the guy who survived the shooting, right?
The kid is an all-time character.
That kid, a karate kid. He should have been cut out of the movie.
Totally not. He's so funny though.
It makes no sense to the plot, and yet they give you 3 minutes to explain this whole crap at the end, and it's like, well, why did we have that kid for 5 minutes in the middle? So
I thought it was funny.
This is the guy. He gets shot by the Tremor brothers, and they dump him in Lake Tahoe. He comes out. He survives. He finds refuge with this Tahoe family, and there's this crazy karate kid that has, Ritalin, and he's just all over the place. And then that guy comes back and ends up killing one of the Tremor brothers, the only surviving Tremor brother. Why did we need that? We didn't need it. He could have just died.
Comic relief.
Was it funny? I didn't find it funny.
I laughed. The kid with one eye and a full karate outfit starts just coming and talking shit. He throws his ice cream sandwich in the hot tub that the guy is trying to beat. I thought it was funny, and the sex toy in the bathtub. I laughed.
The sex toy was funny. So that there are things that for some reason they left in, and there are other things that should have been expanded on and were not.
Totally agree.
I also, there were just some interesting, when the security guard gets stabbed by Pascual Acosta.
Yep.
Why doesn't he scream? Why doesn't he yell?
So this guy was almost a surgeon with his ability to torture people, right? That's how they opened him up. So he knows that, as soon as I saw that, it made sense to me because he stabbed this guy just right in the perfect place where he's not going to feel any pain. He's just going to kind of drift slowly into death. And he's just sitting there and he's kind of talking him through it, which is...
But can he not scream?
It didn't... Yeah, I mean, it's a movie, but...
Yeah.
I believed it because this guy is like a surgeon, if you will. And he knows that one place to stick that needle or whatever.
That's fair. Yeah, what else did you have that you thought was bad?
What did I think was bad about the movie? I mean, it definitely could have been more organized. I wanted it to be a longer film. I wanted them to explain a lot more. There was probably at least one set of assassins that probably could have been cut out of the movie entirely. I mean, technically, Ben Affleck's character, which he was an assassin, he was a
ex-cop.
Yeah, but he was a
bail bondsman,
bounty hunter, if you will.
Bail bondsman, bounty hunter,
same thing basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it had the potential of being, that's kind of what I'm saying. It had the potential of being an all-time film, but missed the mark. And so, that's what I wished was done different. I think that a different director would have done things. I think it looked visually stunning. Mm-hmm. I think the cast was brilliant. I think the story, if executed appropriately, again, could have been potentially, nominated for awards, but it just was a little cheese dick, if you will.
Yeah, I do love that shot where they come down into Lake Tahoe. It's that beginning shot, and then they drop into his suite. That kind of gives you the whole Tahoe vibe. But it's also it also illustrates how weird it is to have this kind of small mountain town of South Lake Tahoe with this kind of crazy party scene at the casinos. Where there's bachelorette parties everywhere, and there's, probably people running from the Vegas mob, and so it does really show the weird connection of South Lake Tahoe and its residents. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I think we hit it hard. Is that there's something off about this movie that I think could have been better, and I think should have been better, but overall, I do enjoy it. It's a lot of hard-hitting action and great Tahoe stuff. So the assassins. Let's talk about the assassins. So I ranked mine. I don't know here's my list, and we can go through them one by one. Number one list of assassins, Laszlo Suit, the disguise guy.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah.
So he starts the movie as a black guy in dreads in a wheelchair and performs a hit. And then
as Ben Affleck, if I'm correct, is describing this guy as somebody who nobody knows what he looks like, and you're cut to a scene that's clearly about to be a hit, and it's like it's going through different faces of the people that are walking across the street, which is clearly about to be a hit, and all of these people look like mafia figures, and then there's this one black guy with dreads that's in a wheelchair, and he's blowing his wheelchair like trying to move it, and like they're like, he's the person that you least suspect, and this one guy goes to grab what turns out to be a cell phone, and then he comes out with like two automatic weapons and just decapitates everybody. It was awesome.
He successfully killed one of the members of Buddy Israel's crew, and then molds his entire face and puts that mold on and just acts like that guy. You can see him. He's like smoking a cigarette and blowing something into the back of his throat to sound more like the guy. Raspy.
Yep.
Just an all-time assassin. I could do a whole movie with that guy.
Well, and after he does that hit that you're kind of introduced to him as, where he takes the mask off and then just flips off the camera, it's like, that guy's rad.
Yeah. Second on my assassin ranking list, the Tremor Brothers.
So there are three Tremor Brothers.
Yeah.
The third one, who is the one that is killed last by the survivor of the bounty hunter bondsman guys, he was originally casted as the guy Michael Shannon. Are you familiar with Michael Shannon?
No.
This is his picture right here. This is really good for podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So
I like
Michael,
that guy.
great actor.
Yeah.
But he apparently was really rude to one of the costume designers, and so he was fired. And so, what's his name? Chris Pine.
Chris Pine
Was cast in his role after the director watched 10 seconds of his audition tape.
Yeah.
He did, after knowing that, Chris Pine did seem maybe a little bit like, I can imagine this Michael Shannon as that role of that third brother.
Yeah, me too.
And it's a different trio. I almost think it's better with Michael Shannon, but again, he got fired because he was mean to a costume designer, which I just thought was a fun fact. And Michael Shannon's a big guy. There's also that other big guy of the trio that ends up sitting on the chainsaw, who brings a chainsaw to a gunfight, which, and then like road flares.
Yeah.
Also, can we talk about how at least a third of the movie, those brothers are in an elevator. Like, they get in the elevator like 10 minutes into the movie, and they don't get out of that elevator until like 50 minutes into that movie.
True.
Like, did they stop the elevator?
Yeah, they stopped all elevators.
Yeah, but they stopped the elevators after these guys have been in it forever. Like, they go through it.
I see.
That was one of those, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, they are neo-Nazi
idiot brothers
who
same
are
mother,
assassins.
3 different dads.
I think I read somewhere that they're like meth heads or something.
Makes sense.
One of them has like the first line of Mein Kampf tattooed on his arm. I read that, but super entertaining. Like from a film aspect, they are very entertaining. So that's number 2.
What were those wrestling guys that like were the wrestling duo for like WWF that were like the Bash Brothers?
Idea.
They were kind of like the Bash Brothers. They wore the spikes and stuff. It just reminded me of those brothers.
Gotcha.
Do you remember what I'm talking about? You would. I swear it was like the Bash Brothers.
Third on my list. Who do you think is third?
Third of the assassins. Okay, so
I got the women.
I was gonna say Alicia Keys,
Georgia Sykes, and Charisse Waters. Georgia Sykes played by Alicia Keys. They're a great little duo. You can tell that Charisse Waters is kind of in love with the Alicia Keys character, but they go out and they kill together. I love that the girl has that massive gun. Like we said, that gun is
all time.
I don't even know how you would obtain a gun like that. That's insane. But they had a really good idea that the girl was going to go in as a prostitute, and then the other girl's watching her back from across the street with a sniper rifle. Pretty cool. They didn't show the Charisse girl getting killed at the end, but I assume she does.
No, yeah, because you can see them going and trying to find the room that she was shooting from, and she was clearly so distraught, thinking Alicia Keys' character had been killed, that she was just trying to shoot any and everything, trying to find evidence of whether she was alive or dead. And then right before she ultimately gets killed, she sees Alicia Keys in Common's arms.
You literally have a Tremor brother cutting people open with a chainsaw, but you cut away when she's shot. That makes zero sense to me. Fourth on the assassin ranking is Pasquale Acosta, just the surgeon, like you talked about. Kind of a cool character, I guess. I don't know. I guess I was left wanting a little bit more from him.
Yeah, I mean, having a torturous guy, you got to have that in the kind of genre of assassin groups.
And also, him and Ray Liotta just laying in the elevator, but also being alive the whole time was kind of ridiculous.
That was a bit of a stretch, and they both are unresponsive until the moment that they needed it in the film, and then they both wake up and are dramatically killed.
And then ranked dead last on the assassin list is Ben Affleck and Peter Berg crew.
But they aren't assassins. Kind of like Common. Common was the bodyguard of Buddy Israel. The Ben Affleck's group worked for the FBI. They weren't trying to kill Israel. They were trying to actually bring him into the cops, whereas every other group was trying to end his life.
Yeah, but they were one of the group of people that were going in to try to extract him.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about just groups going in trying to extract, Ray Liotta and Ryan Reynolds is also a group.
But no, but they're not rogue. Like
right.
Ben Affleck and Peter Berg are more rogue.
No, because they're supposed to be. They're not trying to kill. They are working for the government. Them getting killed is what makes Ryan Reynolds and Ray Liotta need to be there so quickly, because Ray Liotta and Ryan Reynolds need to fill the role that those guys were supposed to do.
They were well, nonetheless, they're last because they sucked and they got killed pretty quickly. So
yeah, I mean, Ben Affleck. It's crazy that they were able to get so many A-list celebrities in this film for such a small amount of money.
I wonder if it was the script that a lot of people were attracted to.
Passion project. They're all like, I want to be a part of this. Because if done right, this movie could have been all time.
Again, $17 million. To make a movie like this for $17 million is pretty crazy with all these people. They all had to have made very little money for it.
Well, and it made 57 in the box office, and I'm sure a lot of these guys are getting kind of residuals from it, right? Not that there's a tremendous amount, but that's probably why they took low salaries or what have you, so that they could get the money in the long run.
A lot of DVD residuals.
Yeah, I gave them one.
Yeah, 1.8 million DVDs sold. So that's all I had. Again, I like this movie a lot. I think it is, whether you like it or not, it is the quintessential Lake Tahoe movie, because name another one.
I mean, I'm sure I could if I really thought about it, but...
there are plenty of movies that are filmed in the Tahoe region, but there's nothing that is both filmed and takes place there and shows all these different spots of Tahoe.
Tahoe is a character in the film, basically. I mean,
a huge
those
character.
Guys are thrown into the lake. You see the survivor actually come out of the lake, which would have been... that would have been awful to... I can only imagine how cold it was, but you see it in the background. Again, every shot from that suite, the fourth wall is looking at Lake Tahoe, looking at the was it Horizon?
Horizon Hotel, yeah.
Hotel, and it becomes an absolute character in the film, the location.
I 1000% agree. I think they could have even leaned into it a little bit more, but I'm probably biased because this is a Northern California podcast and we like to talk about this stuff. But it was a fun rewatch. When this movie came out, it was 2006, and I spent a lot of time in Tahoe, so I knew these areas really well. Tahoe has changed a lot over the last 15 years, but And you know, I was probably 21 when I watched this movie. I was in Tahoe a lot snowboarding, and we used to go to those casinos.
Sure.
So being able to see all this action in a place that I actually hung out quite a bit was pretty fun. And you know, I wonder. I'm sure probably Tahoe is not in the prequel, right? I would assume there's no reason for it to be.
I'll never know. I will never watch the sequel of this movie.
Yeah, it had like a really bad name too. But anyway, that's it. You have anything else?
If you haven't seen it, go out and watch Smokin Aces. Not Smokin Aces 2. I can't recommend that one. In fact, I could probably recommend it. But all-time Tahoe movie, I can't think of a more quintessential Tahoe movie, which drives me insane. But hey, here it is.
It is the quintessential Tahoe. Unless you want to say Godfather, but
that's just a scene. That's
just
not the whole
scene.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a couple scenes there,
right?
But I think the Lake Tahoe like Visitors Bureau gets a lot more out of the Godfather stuff than they do the Smokin Aces stuff, right?
Yeah,
because they are constantly promoting it as. I mean, the Tahoe house that was in Godfather sold for like $44 million or something. So yes, so that does it for Smokin Aces. What should we do next in terms of movies?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, do we need to do Godfather? I mean, I was just looking up how much that movie made, $259 million. So
yeah, but like you said, it's
5 times the amount of money.
It's small in retrospect of it. I actually, because it was Halloween, we did this article on the 20 horror films that take place in Northern California. That was a fun list. There's actually a decent amount of films, horror films that quote unquote take place here. What have we done so far? We've done E.T., we've done Outbreak, we've done...
I mean, we did a whole just list of movies.
Yeah, but that was a little bit smaller.
Let's see, we got Indiana Jones.
We did The Great Outdoors.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, I'm talking about the full podcast.
The full pods we've done.
We've done The Great Outdoors. We did the Almost Heroes with Chris Farley.
Oh man, there you go, quintessential Northern California film.
So my thought is we should probably just do Lady Bird next.
Yeah. I think from a theatrical film standpoint, it's probably going to be a little bit better than Smokin Aces, and like Tahoe, Sacramento plays kind of a character in the movie Lady Bird, which actually I think did win awards, and I remember really enjoying it. So I would be happy to watch that again.
Yes. And like we said, like we called it on our website, it's a love letter to Sacramento. It is Greta Gerwig's love letter to Sacramento. So let us know in the comments section what we should do next. I think Lady Bird's probably up, but if you have a better idea, let us know. You can also see which films are filmed or take place in Northern California on our website, top 25 movies that were filmed in Northern California. So check that out. And that does it for this movie episode of the Talking NorCal podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Facebook. We're everywhere. Again, be sure to follow us on social media, both Active NorCal and Talking NorCal. You'll get fun clips of these podcasts.
And leave us a review.
Leave us a review. 5-star reviews only. We have some fun review. Again, this pod we're growing. We're doing fun stuff. So we're going to try to take this to the next level here in the next few months. But we appreciate everyone for watching and or listening. And remember, stay active.
NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and I could spend all day just chilling in the South Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and Darren knows how to kick it down in Santa Cruz. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little cray-cray when we visit the East Bay. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we get a little mental when we visit Sacramento. Yeah, we're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and we protect nature's bounty when we visit Humboldt County. Yeah, we're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and me, I'm hella cool, 'cause I've been Sebastopol. We're NorCal, we're hella NorCal, and you know that we gotta go